On a cold winter night in the heart of Manhattan, December 17, 2014, the wind blew through the city, carrying the crisp scent of fresh snow. People hurried through the streets, bundled up in thick coats, scarves wrapped tightly around their faces to shield them from the icy air. The sidewalks were crowded with New Yorkers trying to get home before the storm arrived. In the middle of all the hustle and bustle stood Joe's Diner, a small and cozy restaurant tucked away on 7th Avenue. The neon sign flickered in the night, casting a warm glow onto the sidewalk. Inside, the diner was alive with the sounds of clinking dishes, the hum of conversation, and the occasional burst of laughter. The scent of fresh coffee and sizzling burgers filled the air. Among the busy waitresses was Lily Thompson, a 26-year-old woman with caramel-colored hair and a bright, warm smile. She moved gracefully between the tables, balancing trays and refilling coffee cups with practiced ease. But Lily wasn't just a waitress, she was a dreamer. Every shift she worked brought her closer to her goal, saving enough money to go to art school. That evening, as the city braced for the coming snowstorm, the diner's door creaked open. A frail man in tattered clothes shuffled inside, his hollow eyes scanning the room nervously. He looked exhausted and cold, his thin hands trembling as he pulled his ragged coat tighter around his shoulders. Customers glanced at him briefly before turning away, unwilling to meet his eyes. But Lily noticed him immediately. Her heart ached for the poor man. She walked over to him, her voice soft and kind. "Sir, are you hungry?" The man hesitated, shifting uncomfortably. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he replied, I haven't eaten in 2 days." Without a second thought, Lily led him to a booth near the heater. "Sit here. Warm up," she said, offering him a gentle smile. Moments later, she placed a steaming plate of meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans in front of him. "Eat, please," she urged. The man's hands trembled as he picked up the fork. His eyes filled with tears as he took his first bite. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice breaking. But before Lily could return to her other customers, a sharp voice boomed across the diner. "Lily, what do you think you're doing?" Lily turned to see her boss, Mr. Whitaker, standing in the doorway of the kitchen. He was a wiry man with sharp features, his expression twisted in anger. "He was hungry, Mr. Whitaker. He needed a meal," Lily explained, trying to keep her voice steady. Mr. Whitaker scoffed. "You think this is a charity? That meal is coming out of your paycheck. In fact," he sneered, his lips curling into a cruel smirk, "you're fired. Pack your things." The diner fell silent. Customers looked on in shock. Lily's face burned with humiliation. She slowly untied her apron and placed it on the counter. The homeless man stood, looking devastated. "Miss, I didn't mean to cause trouble. I'll leave." Lily shook her head firmly. "No. You finish your meal." With that, she grabbed her coat, lifted her chin, and walked out into the cold night. The wind stung her face and her eyes filled with tears, but she refused to let them fall. She sat on a nearby bench, clutching her bag, trying to figure out what to do next. How would she tell her roommate? How would she pay rent? 30 minutes passed. Snowflakes began to fall, dusting the city in white. Then a sleek black SUV pulled up in front of the diner. The door opened and out stepped none other than Keanu Reeves. He wore a simple black coat and jeans, his kind smile lighting up his face. He walked into the diner, looking around as if searching for someone. What happened next would change Lily's life forever. Keanu Reeves entered the diner, and the room went silent. Every pair of eyes turned toward him. His gaze swept the diner until it landed on the frail man still sitting in the booth. The man looked up nervously as Keanu approached. "Excuse me," Keanu said in a deep, steady voice. "May I sit here?" The man's weathered face showed pure shock. Sure, I guess," he stammered, pulling his coat tightly around him. Keanu slid into the seat across from him. "That meal, was it good?" Tears welled up in the man's eyes. He nodded. "It was the first warm food I've had in days," he whispered. "A kind waitress gave it to me, but she got fired because of me." Keanu's brows furrowed. "She was fired?" His voice carried disbelief and beneath it, a quiet anger. "Where is she now?" The man shook his head. "She left. I don't even know her name. She seemed kind. I didn't mean for her to lose her job." Keanu stood up suddenly, his jaw tightening. "Stay here," he said firmly. He turned toward Mr. Whitaker, who had been watching the scene unfold from behind the counter, his face pale and nervous. "You're the manager?" Keanu asked, his voice sharp yet controlled. Mr. Whitaker swallowed hard. "Why, yes, I am." "Is there a problem, Mr. Reeves?" Keanu's dark eyes narrowed. I heard you fired a waitress tonight for showing kindness. Is that true? Mr. Whitaker hesitated. Well, she broke the rules. Gave away food for free. Keanu leaned in slightly. You run a business, I get it. But firing someone for helping a hungry man? That's not just heartless, it's bad business. Mr. Whitaker opened his mouth to respond, but Keanu raised a hand, stopping him. You might want to rethink that decision. Trust me. With that, Keanu turned and walked out, leaving Mr. Whitaker looking shaken. Outside, the snow was falling heavier now, covering the city in a thick white blanket. Keanu looked around until he spotted Lily, sitting on the bench, her head bowed, breath visible in the freezing air. He approached cautiously. Excuse me, he said softly. Lily looked up, her red-rimmed eyes widening. You're Keanu Reeves. He smiled gently and knelt in front of her. And you must be the kind waitress everyone is talking about. She stared at him in disbelief. How do you? I was inside, he explained. I heard what happened. You didn't deserve that. Lily shook her head, her voice breaking. I just wanted to help. I didn't know it would cost me my job. Keanu's eyes softened. Sometimes doing the right thing is hard, he said gently. But that doesn't mean it was wrong. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks. I don't even know why you're talking to me, she whispered. I'm nobody. Keanu placed a warm hand over hers. You're not nobody, he said. You're someone who chose kindness when it wasn't easy. That makes you special. Lily stared at him, unsure if this was real or a dream. Keanu stood and pulled out his phone. Do you have a place to stay tonight? She nodded. I have a roommate, but I don't know how I'll pay rent now. Keanu smiled warmly. Let's take things one step at a time. First, let me make a call. As he spoke on the phone, Lily watched him, her heart filled with something new, hope. Lily couldn't believe her eyes. The man she had only seen in movies, Keanu Reeves, was walking beside her like it was the most normal thing in the world. You know, Keanu said, breaking the silence, kindness like yours is rare. Most people would have just walked away. Lily looked at him, her voice a little shaky. I didn't do anything special. He was hungry. Anyone would have done the same. Keanu shook his head. You'd be surprised. Many people don't help even when they see someone in need. The world needs more people like you. His words made Lily feel warm inside, but she also felt sad. It's not enough, she said quietly. That man is still out there and now I lost my job. I couldn't even help him properly. Keanu stopped walking and turned to face her. His eyes were kind but serious. Don't ever think what you did wasn't enough. You gave that man hope. Sometimes that's all someone needs to keep going. Lily felt her chest tighten. Tears filled her eyes. She hadn't cried in front of anyone since she was little, but now, standing on a snowy sidewalk, she couldn't stop. Keanu reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a tissue and handed it to her. Here, he said softly. It's okay to feel. She took the tissue and wiped her eyes. I don't even know why you're helping me, she admitted. I'm just nobody. Keanu frowned slightly, looking sad. I used to think the same thing about myself, he said quietly. There were times when I felt invisible, like I didn't matter. But kind strangers helped me when I needed it most. That's what kept me going. So, if I can do the same for someone else, even in a small way, I will. Lily looked at him, her heart aching at his honesty. You felt that way? But you're Keanu Reeves. He gave her a small smile, his eyes filled with something deep and sad. Fame doesn't protect you from pain or loneliness. I've lost people I love. My best friend, my partner, my child. And in those moments, I would have given anything for someone to remind me I wasn't alone. Lily's breath caught in her throat. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Keanu nodded, looking far away for a moment before meeting her eyes again. Life can be really hard sometimes, Lily. But kindness, that's what makes it easier. That's what matters. They kept walking, the silence between them now filled with understanding. As they reached Lily's apartment, she felt a little sad that the night was ending. This is me, she said, stopping in front of her building. Keanu looked at the building, then back at her. It's been a long night, he said gently, but it's far from over. Lily frowned, confused. What do you mean? Keanu pulled a card from his pocket and handed it to her. Tomorrow I want you to meet someone. A friend of mine runs a group that helps people like the man you fed tonight. They're always looking for kind, caring people like you to help. Lily stared at the card, her hands shaking a little. Why are you doing this? Keanu smiled. Because someone once did it for me. And because you deserve it. Lily didn't know what to say. She wanted to thank him, hug him, maybe even cry again. But words didn't seem enough. Instead, she whispered, "You're amazing." Keanu chuckled softly. "Not amazing. Just human, like you." Then he turned and walked away, the snow swirling around him. Lily watched him go, a tiny smile on her lips and a new feeling in her heart, hope. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. Her small apartment was quiet, except for the soft creaks of the radiator. She sat by the window, the city lights glowing outside. In her hand, she held the card Keanu had given her. She read the name printed on it, Hope Horizons. "A charity group, an opportunity," she whispered, tracing the letters with her thumb. "But can I trust this? Can I trust him?" Just then, her best friend Sophie came out of her room, her messy hair sticking up. "Why are you still awake?" Sophie yawned, rubbing her eyes. Lily hesitated. "You won't believe what happened tonight." Sophie sat down on the couch, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "Try me." Lily told her everything, the homeless man, her boss firing her, and then the most unbelievable part, Keanu Reeves walking into her life. When she finished, Sophie's mouth hung open in shock. "Wait, Keanu Reeves showed up at Joe's diner, talked to you, walked you home, and gave you a card?" Lily nodded. "I know how it sounds, but it really happened." Sophie stared at her for a long moment, and then burst out laughing. Only you could get fired and somehow have a movie star show up to save the day." Lily sighed, but a tiny smile formed on her lips. "It's not funny. I don't know what to do." Sophie's laughter faded, and she gave Lily a serious look. "You call the number. You see where it leads. What's the worst that could happen?" Lily nodded slowly. Maybe Sophie was right. Maybe this was a chance to do something meaningful. She looked at the card one last time before setting it down on the nightstand. Tomorrow she will make the call. And maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something new. The next morning, Lily sat at her small kitchen table. A card was in front of her, and she held her phone tightly in her hand. She felt nervous as she dialed the number. "Hope Horizons," a warm voice said on the phone. "This is Margaret speaking. How can I help you?" Lily cleared her throat. "Hi, my name is Lily Thompson. Keanu Reeves told me to call you." There was a pause. Lily's heart started beating fast. What if this was all a joke? But then Margaret spoke again, her voice happy and kind. "Ah yes, Keanu told me about you. We'd love to meet you. Can you come today?" Lily said yes. A few hours later, she stood outside a small building in Brooklyn. A sign above the door read, "Hope Horizons Building Second Chances." She took a deep breath and stepped inside. A middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a warm smile greeted her. "You must be Lily. Keanu told us what happened last night. He spoke very highly of you." Lily blushed. She still couldn't believe that someone like him had noticed her. "I'm not sure why I'm here," she admitted. Margaret led her to a small office and pointed to a chair. "Keanu believes in second chances, and so do we. He thought you might want to help others while figuring out your next step. We help homeless people, teach job skills, and do other good things. With your kindness, you would be a perfect fit." Lily felt a little bit of hope, but doubt filled her mind. "I'm not good enough for this," she said softly. "I'm just a waitress." Margaret smiled gently. "From what I hear, you're much more than that. You stood up for someone who needed help. That is special." For the first time in days, Lily felt like maybe she wasn't as lost as she thought. Weeks passed, then months. Lily worked hard at Hope Horizons. She helped with meal programs, talked to shelters, and even started an art class to help people express their feelings. Painting was her passion, and now she could share it with others. But no matter how busy she was, she couldn't stop thinking about Keanu. He hadn't called her since that night. She wondered if she had imagined the connection they had shared. One rainy evening, Lily was cleaning up after her art class. The door to the center opened. She turned, thinking it was a volunteer, but her breath caught. It was Keanu Reeves. He stood in the doorway, his coat dripping from the rain. His dark eyes were warm and familiar. "I heard you've been doing amazing things," he said with a small smile. Lily's heart started beating fast. She couldn't believe he was here. Why are you here?" He stepped closer. "I wanted to see for myself. And I wanted to thank you." She blinked, confused. "Thank me? For what?" "For reminding me why kindness matters," he said simply. "For showing that even in a tough world, there are people who care. You have helped more people than you know." Lily's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, she didn't try to hide them. "I should be thanking you," she whispered. Keanu shook his head. "No. You have given hope to so many people, including me." Lily stood still, his words echoing in her mind. Outside, the rain seemed to quiet as if the whole world was listening. She tried to speak, but her voice shook. "You made me believe in myself again," she finally said. "When I thought I had nothing, you showed me that kindness still matters." Keanu smiled, his eyes kind. "Look around, Lily. This place, these people. You took your pain and turned it into something beautiful. That is rare." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I never thought someone like you would notice someone like me." He stepped closer. His voice was soft but strong. "You're wrong. You're special, Lily. You just needed someone to remind you." For a moment, everything was quiet. The only sounds were the rain outside and the voices of volunteers in the distance. Keanu reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, wrapped package. "What's this?" Lily asked, her hands shaking as she took it. "Open it," he said with a smile. She carefully unwrapped it. Inside was a sketchbook. Its leather cover was soft and warm in her hands. On the first page, there was a note written in Keanu's neat handwriting. "For the artist who paints with kindness. Never stop creating." Lily gasped, overwhelmed by the gift. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Keanu said. "Just promise me one thing. Keep being you." At that moment, something changed in Lily's heart. The heavy weight she had carried for so long seemed to lift. In its place, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. As Keanu turned to leave, she called after him. "Will I see you again?" He paused at the door and looked back with a smile that was both kind and mysterious. "I have a feeling our paths will cross again." Then he disappeared into the rain, leaving Lily standing there, holding the sketchbook to her chest. Her heart was full of gratitude, wonder, and the quiet feeling that her story was far from over. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories filled with adventure, mystery, and excitement. Your support means the world, and it helps keep these stories coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.